The ground shakes. 21,000 men. Perfect formation. 18-foot pikes. Bronze wall. The weapon that conquered the world. Across the plain, 34,000 Romans. Short swords. Useless. You cannot reach a man 6 meters away. 1 hour later, 20,000 Macedonians dead. The survivors drowning in the sea. The greatest military system ever built, destroyed. How does perfection die so fast? The answer is written in blood. June 22, 168 BC, 3 p.m. The battle wasn't supposed to start yet. A mule broke loose, crossed the shallow Lucas River. 3 Roman soldiers chased it. 2 Thracian mercenaries intervened. Someone died. A skirmish exploded. King Perseus of Macedon saw his chance. The Romans weren't ready. He ordered the full phalanx forward. Lucius Aemilius Paulus, the 60-year-old Roman commander, had no choice. Deploy now or die. The Pelagian cohort stood on the Roman right, Italian allied troops, proud, skilled. Their commander, Salvius, watched the phalanx form. A bronze wall, 21,000 men in 16 ranks. The front 5 ranks leveled their sarissas, 18-foot pikes of Cornell wood. The rear ranks held theirs upward, forming a roof against arrows. It was beautiful and terrifying. Salvius made a decision that killed him. He grabbed his unit standard, the eagle banner, and hurled it into the Macedonian lines. To lose your standard was the greatest shame in Roman military culture, worse than death. His men had no choice: retrieve it or be dishonored forever. The Pelagians charged directly into the pike wall. The sound was thunder, bronze shields smashing against pike shafts, men screaming. The pikes didn't bend, they pierced. The first Roman hit the sarissas and was impaled. The pike went through his chest, lifted him off his feet. Then the soldier behind pushed the body off and was impaled himself. The second rank died. Then the third. The Pelagians couldn't reach the Macedonians. Their gladii, short swords designed for close combat, were useless. The enemy stood 18 feet away behind a forest of iron tips death. Salvius fought at the front, trying to reach the standard. A sarissa found his throat. He fell. His men kept pushing. They retrieved the banner from beneath a pile of corpses. But 200 Pelagians lay dead in the mud. The rest of the Roman line saw it, watched their brothers shredded like meat. The phalanx hadn't even moved, just stood there, a machine, killing anything that came close. Paulus, watching from the rear, felt ice in his stomach. He would later confess this was the most terrifying sight he'd ever witnessed in 40 years of war. The Macedonian phalanx was winning, and the battle had only just begun. If you want more battles like this, subscribe. If you're enjoying it, hit the like button. It helps. How did Rome and Macedon reach this apocalyptic moment? The road to Pydna began 3 years earlier, 171 BC, the Third Macedonian War. King Perseus, son of Philip V, had spent a decade rebuilding his kingdom, restoring the treasury, training soldiers, preparing. Rome noticed, urged by Eumenes II of Pergamon, a Roman ally who feared Macedonian power. The Senate declared war. The excuse? Perseus threatened the freedom of Greek city-states. The reality? Rome wanted to destroy the last Hellenistic superpower. For 3 years, the war was a stalemate. Perseus built a defensive line along the Enipeus River, fortified it so well that Roman commanders couldn't break through. By 168 BC, Rome was frustrated. They sent Lucius Aemilius Paulus, old, disciplined, prestigious, a man who understood that frontal assaults against sarissa armed soldiers meant suicide. Paulus planned a flanking maneuver. He sent 8,200 troops with Scipio Nasica through mountain passes to outflank Perseus. But a Cretan deserter revealed the plan. Perseus panicked, not because he was losing, because he feared encirclement. He abandoned his fortified line and withdrew north to Pydna. A calculated move, Pydna offered flat, open terrain, perfect for the Phalanx. But it also trapped him between the sea and the Pyrenean foothills, terrain that would become his graveyard. The forces assembled. Romans, 34,000 legionaries, 4,000 cavalry, 22 North African war elephants, total 38,000 men. Macedonians, 40,000 infantry, including 21,000 phalanx, 4,000 cavalry, 3,000 elite Agema Royal Guard, total 44,000 men. The Macedonians had the numbers. They had the weapons system that conquered the world. They had chosen their ground. They should have won. But understanding why they didn't requires understanding what these two armies actually were. The Macedonian phalanx was a glass sledgehammer, devastating on the charge, unstoppable in perfect formation, but rigid, cumbersome, over-specialized. Each soldier carried a sarissa, 18 to 21 feet long, two-piece pike, so heavy it required both hands. The shield, a small pelta, hung from the shoulder. Armor was light. Mobility was zero. The formation was 16 ranks deep, extremely compact. The first 5 ranks pointed their pikes forward. The back ranks held theirs up. It created an impenetrable wall. But it required perfect flat ground, perfect alignment, perfect order. Any break in the formation was catastrophic. The Roman legion was the opposite, built to adapt. The manipular system divided the army into small units, maniples, arranged in a checkerboard. Fresh troops could rotate forward. Gaps could be exploited. Officers could react independently. Each legionary carried a gladius hispaniensis, a short stabbing sword, lethal in close quarters, a large scutum shield, heavy enough to bash, curved enough to protect. The legion was cellular, flexible, pragmatic. 2 philosophies, 2 weapon systems, 1 battlefield. The night before the battle, a blood-red lunar eclipse turned the moon crimson. In the Macedonian camp, terror spread. An omen, a sign the Antigonid dynasty would fall. In the Roman camp, a tribune named Gaius Sulpicius Gallus predicted the eclipse using astronomy. He explained it to the troops. Science versus superstition. Paulus sacrificed animals to the gods, declared the omen favorable. One army believed in fate. The other believed in discipline. Now the mule had crossed the river. The skirmish had erupted. The phalanx was forming. The real battle was about to begin. The phalanx formed with mechanical precision. 21,000 men, 16 ranks deep, 1,300 soldiers across, each man standing 3 feet from his neighbor, shields overlapping, pikes leveled. From the front, it looked like a forest of iron. From above, a bronze organism. The Macedonian officers shouted the command. Forward, the phalanx stepped. As one, Paulus watched from the Roman lines. His tactical mind understood immediately. If the Romans charged, they'd be shredded like the Pelignians. If they retreated, the phalanx would run them down. If they held position, the momentum of 21,000 men would crush them. There was no good option. He ordered the maniples to hold formation, deploy in depth, wait for an opening. But what opening? How do you find a weakness in perfection? The phalanx advanced across the plain. The sound was unlike anything the Romans had heard. The tramp of 42,000 feet hitting earth in unison. The rattle of bronze armor. The hiss of pikes cutting air. A legionary in the front rank watched the wall approach. The tips of 5,000 sarissas pointed at his face, 18 feet away, then 15, then 12. His centurion shouted, "Shields up! Hold!" The Romans raised their scuda. formed a shield wall, braced. The phalanx kept coming. 10 feet, 8, 6. The Roman pilum volleys, heavy javelins, flew, hundreds of them, designed to pierce shields and armor. But the rear ranks of the phalanx had their sarissas raised. The javelins hit the pike shafts, deflected, fell harmlessly. The phalanx adjusted. The front ranks reset their pikes. 4 feet. The Roman front line could see the Macedonians now. Young men, old veterans, eyes focused, discipline absolute. 2 feet. The pikes hit the Roman shields. Not a thrust, not a stab, a push. The weight of 16 ranks behind each pikeman drove the sarissas forward like hydraulic rams. The Roman shields held, barely. But the Romans couldn't fight back. Their gladii were useless. The enemy stood beyond reach, behind a wall of wood and iron. A legionary tried to grab a sarissa shaft, pull it aside, create an opening. 3 more pikes hit him, 1 in the face, 1 in the chest, 1 in the stomach. He fell. The man behind stepped over him, took his place. The phalanx pushed. The Roman line bent, buckled, started to break. A veteran centurion named Quintus stood in the 3rd rank. He'd fought in Spain, in Africa, against Carthaginians and Celtiberians. He'd never seen anything like this. The soldier in front of him died. Sarissa through the neck. The man fell. Quintus stepped forward. He could see the Macedonian holding the pike that killed his brother, young, maybe 20 years old, standing 15 feet away, untouchable. Quintus tried to advance, push through the pike forest. Impossible. Another sarissa caught his shield, pushed him back. He was a veteran, a killer, a professional. And he was helpless. Panic started spreading through the Roman ranks. Men in the rear heard the screaming, saw the front line retreating step by step, saw bodies falling. The whisper started, "We're losing." Then louder, "Fall back." Paulus rode forward, shouted orders, held the line together through sheer force of will. But even he felt it, the cold certainty. The phalanx was a machine designed for one purpose, to kill everything in front of it. And it was working. The Macedonians weren't even fighting hard. They just walked forward, pushed, let the pikes do the killing. Methodical, professional, unstoppable. The phalanx pushed the Romans 200 meters back, from the plain onto the uneven foothills. The ground changed. Small rocks, shallow ditches, minor elevation changes. Nothing dramatic, just imperfect terrain. The phalanx kept advancing, but something shifted. The left section of the phalanx, moving uphill, slowed down. The pikes tilted. Alignment broke slightly. The center section, on flat ground, kept pace. The right section, moving around a ditch, adjusted formation, lost synchronization. From the Macedonian perspective, nothing was wrong. Minor adjustments expected in battle. From above, Paulus saw it. Gaps, tiny at first, just a meter or two between sections, but growing. The phalanx was breaking apart. Paulus turned to his tribunes, gave the order that would change history. When you see an opening, any opening, send maniples into the gaps, get inside their formation, break them apart. The tribunes nodded, waited. The phalanx kept advancing, still deadly, still terrifying, but no longer perfect. And perfection was all the phalanx had. The battle had been raging for 30 minutes. The Romans were retreating, slowly, controlled, but retreating. Casualties so far, 400 Romans dead, 50 Macedonians. King Perseus watched from behind his lines, saw his phalanx doing exactly what it was designed to do, grinding forward, killing systematically. Victory seemed certain, but he made a critical error. He didn't notice the gaps forming. The Macedonian officers did notice. They tried to close the spaces, shouted orders, But the phalanx was too rigid, too large. Once momentum started, it couldn't stop. Like trying to turn a ship with oars already locked. The formation kept fragmenting. Sections moved at different speeds. The flat killing wall became a series of wedges. And between those wedges, space. Not much, just enough. Paulus saw the gaps widening, saw sections of the phalanx isolated from each other. He sent runners to every manipular commander. Attack the gaps, close combat, get inside their reach. The Roman maniples, small, mobile, independent, moved. Not a frontal charge, not a mass assault. Surgical strikes, dozens of them. Wherever a gap appeared, a Roman maniple pushed through. The Macedonians didn't see it coming. They were focused forward, pushing, killing. They didn't look at their flanks. The first Roman maniple entered a gap on the Macedonian right. 120 legionaries, led by a centurion named Marcus. They slipped between two sections of the phalanx. Suddenly, the Macedonians on both sides turned, tried to pivot their pikes, but sarissas were 18 feet long. In tight quarters, they were useless. The Romans closed the distance. The battle dissolved instantly. What had been one massive engagement became 50 isolated fights. Macedonian sections found themselves surrounded, cut off, fighting on multiple sides. The phalanx required space, alignment, order. In close quarters chaos, it was a death trap. The moment the Romans got inside sarissa range, everything changed. A legionary named Gaius stepped through a gap, faced a Macedonian phalangite. The Macedonian tried to bring his sarissa around. Too long, too slow. Gaius pushed it aside with his scutum. Stepped in, the Macedonian dropped his pike, grabbed his backup weapon, a small dagger, maybe 10 inches long. His shield was tiny, hung from his shoulder, useless. Gaius had a gladius, 20 inches, designed for stabbing, and a scutum, 4 feet tall, curved, heavy. The fight lasted 3 seconds. Gaius bashed his shield into the Macedonian's face, broke his nose, stunned him, then stabbed upward, under the ribs, twisted, pulled out. The Macedonian fell. Gaius stepped over him, moved to the next. This same scene repeated 1,000 times across the field. Macedonian soldiers, trained for one type of warfare, suddenly facing another. Their pikes useless, their shields too small, their daggers pathetic. Against legionaries with large shields, short, brutal swords. It wasn't a battle, it was butchery. The bronze phalanx dissolved into clusters of desperate men. The perfect formation shattered, bodies piling, blood mixing with dirt, turning the ground to red mud. The sound changed, no more rhythmic marching, now screaming, metal on metal, men begging, officers shouting orders no one followed, the wet sound of blades entering flesh. The stench hit, opened bowels, vomit, fear sweat, smoke from somewhere, copper in the air. Mud sucked at boots, every step a fight, bodies underfoot, slipping on blood, shields bashing, the impact jarring arms, gladii stabbing, the resistance of flesh, then bone, then through. Legionaries tasted copper, blood spray in mouths, dust coating tongues, salt of sweat dripping from faces. The battlefield became hell, and the Macedonians were trapped in it. Marcus Porcius Cato, son of the famous statesman, fought in the center, young, eager to prove himself. His gladius broke, not the blade, the handle, snapped at the grip. A Roman soldier without his weapon was worse than dead. He was dishonored. Cato didn't retreat. He gathered 10 friends. They fought like madmen, pushing through Macedonians, looking for Cato's sword. They found it under a pile of corpses. Cato grabbed it, covered in blood, someone else's blood. They fought their way back out. Elsewhere, a Macedonian named Philippos watched his entire file, 16 men, die around him. He was in the 12th rank, the rear. When the Romans broke through, his section was surrounded. The front ranks fell first, then the middle, then his friends on either side. He tried to run, couldn't. Bodies blocked the way. He turned to fight. A Roman shield smashed his face. He fell. A gladius found his chest. He died staring at the sky, wondering how this happened. Another legionary, named Titus, had been fighting for 20 minutes. His shield was shattered, his gladius chipped, his armor dented, his face bleeding from a cut above his eye. He was exhausted, but he kept moving, keep stabbing, keep pushing, because the Macedonians were breaking. He could feel it, see it, taste it. One more push. The Macedonian morale collapsed in waves. First, individual soldiers realized they were cut off, surrounded, fighting alone. Then sections, officers shouting for regrouping, no one listening. Then the entire left flank saw King Perseus, their king, their commander, riding away from the battle, fleeing. Some say he was wounded. Some say he panicked. Ancient sources disagree, but the effect was absolute. If the king was running, why fight? The collapse spread like fire. Men threw down their pikes, tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Behind them, the sea. Around them, Romans. The 3,000 Agema, Perseus's royal guard, refused to flee. Elite soldiers, the best of Macedon. They'd sworn oaths. They formed a circle. Shields out, daggers ready. The Romans surrounded them. A tribune offered surrender. The Agema refused. The Romans closed in. It took 15 minutes to kill them all. Every single one died fighting. When it was over, the Romans found their commander, a man named Nicanor, in the center, still standing, surrounded by dead Romans. He'd killed 12 before falling. The Romans left his body alone. Respect for courage. Paulus finally unleashed his trump card. 22 North African war elephants, held in reserve, waiting for this moment. He sent them at the Macedonian left flank. The Macedonian horses, already panicking from the carnage, saw the elephants and went mad. They reared, threw riders, ran. The cavalry disintegrated. The elephants trampled through Macedonian infantry, not killing many, just terrifying everyone. The left flank collapsed completely. Now the Roman cavalry swept around, encircled the center. The Macedonian Phalanx, once a killing machine, was now a cage. Thousands of Macedonians fled toward the sea. They saw ships offshore, hoped they were friendly. They weren't. Roman marines stood on the decks. They watched the Macedonians wade into the water. Then they threw javelins. Men drowned, or were speared in the surf, or were trampled by their own comrades trying to escape. The sea turned red. Others fled into the foothills. Roman cavalry hunted them down. Some threw down weapons, begged for mercy. Some got it, some didn't. By sunset, the plain of Pydna was a graveyard. 20,000 Macedonian bodies. 6,000 captured. The survivors, maybe 15,000, scattered into the countryside. The Macedonian army ceased to exist. Roman casualties, fewer than 1,000. The Battle of Pydna lasted less than 1 hour. When the screaming finally stopped, silence fell. The Romans stood among corpses, thousands of them, bronze armor glinting in the dying light, blood everywhere. Paulus rode through the battlefield, old, exhausted, victorious. He stopped at the place where the Agema made their last stand, looked at the circle of bodies, 3,000 men who refused to run. He ordered his soldiers to bury them with honor. Then he sent cavalry to hunt King Perseus. They found him 2 weeks later, hiding in Samothrace, betrayed by his own allies. Perseus was taken to Rome, paraded through the streets in chains. His kingdom dissolved. Rome split Macedon into 4 puppet republics, banned them from trading with each other, effectively erased the nation. But the real death happened on the battlefield. The Macedonian Phalanx, the weapon system that Alexander used to conquer the world, died at Pydna. And with it died a way of war. For 150 years, the Phalanx had dominated. Perfect discipline, perfect formation, perfect execution. But it was a machine that only worked under perfect conditions. Flat ground, open space, frontal enemies. Remove one element, just one, and it collapsed. The Romans understood something the Macedonians didn't. War isn't geometry. War is chaos. And you need a weapon system that thrives in chaos. The legion was that system. Small units, independent officers, flexibility, adaptation. Not perfect, but pragmatic. Not invincible, but impossible to truly destroy. Even if you broke a Roman legion, the manipules kept fighting. The centurions kept commanding. The soldiers kept adapting. Break a phalanx, and it ceased to function entirely. Pydna proved which philosophy was superior. Here's the bitter irony. The Macedonians chose their ground. They had the numbers. They had the weapon system that terrified the world. They should have won, but the terrain broke their formation. And once the formation broke, the phalanx became a prison. The sarissas, 18 feet of Macedonian pride, became useless weights. The soldiers, trained for one type of warfare, were helpless in close combat. The phalangites died inside the cage their own weapons built. Ancient sources describe rivers running red for days, corpses washing ashore, the smell of death lingering for weeks. The locals called it the Field of Blood. Some Macedonians survived, scattered into Greece, became mercenaries, farmers, forgotten. The Roman legionaries went home, veterans now, with stories about the day they destroyed the unstoppable. King Perseus died in a Roman prison. Some say from grief, some say from poison. It doesn't matter. His kingdom was already dead. The Hellenistic age, born with Alexander, ended at Pydna. The Roman age began. An army believed invincible was systematically destroyed. Not by superior numbers, not by better soldiers, but by superior tactics, by understanding that perfection is fragile, that rigid systems break, that the weapon which works everywhere works nowhere. The sarissa broke at Pydna. The Mediterranean became a Roman lake, and the lesson echoed through 2,000 years of military history. Flexibility defeats perfection. Adaptation defeats discipline. Chaos defeats order. Every single time.